Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming and more Nightreign. Of course, we're talking more of the Deep of Night mode, but today we're talking about builds for each character and all of the best stuff you can get with the new relics. But you know, some of the meta and things you should be considering has changed about the normal relics too. But I'm going to cut this up into two kind of sections. The section where we talk about the best things, the things to think about, the trade-offs you can make, maybe things to avoid, and a lot of the new details that I think you're going to need to know. And then we're going to look at the builds I currently have and why based on that. But obviously it's been like a day and a half of play for me, so I don't have it all to cleanly show you. So please use the timestamps, but the first section is going to be ultra important. Let's begin by talking about each of the Nightfarers, because each of these guys has a new modifying relic on the Deep of Night relics. My advice if you want to look at anything and consider your options even if you haven't found it yet, is to actually come to the relics right screen and then go to the sell tab. Then when you're in this tab, you pull up the filter and then look at everything that's available. That way you don't need to have found it to see what's possible. Like we can go to Wylder and see that new skill even if I didn't have it. Wylder, character skill inflicts blood loss. So it works in two ways. You have the initial hit and then the pull. So we have hit and pull. Each one of those aspects actually builds up bleed. And you can see that it doesn't actually take that long to trigger this bleed status from range, from safety, making what was already a really useful tool for interrupting shield users and in general just comboing way more bursty, and leads into any bleed status build you can think of. Next we have the new one for Guardian. Character skill boost damage negation of nearby allies. This sounds worse than it is because it's actually really good. It actually improves your damage negation and yes, allies around you. It's a 12% damage negation for 30 seconds after triggering the skill. So this is actually really good. Next we have Ironeye. Character skill inflicts heavy poison damage on poisoned enemies. This is interesting because it actually applies some poison as well as dealing that burst of damage against one that's currently afflicted. So as I come across this guy and use just my mark, we're going to build up some poison. You can see there's a little poison effect on the use and now we triggered the poison. This is incredible for the purpose of applying poison in general. And then when I hit a poisoned enemy, we have that special proc. You can see the damage is fantastic. It's really good. Next we have Duchess. With her line, use character skill for brief invulnerability. To keep it very simple, when you use your stopwatch, while you're hearing that sound effect, you're immune to all damage. It's essentially, I press it and I have half a second of damage immunity. So any AoE, nuke, massive effect, I can time that perfectly, making what was already one of the best character skills in the game even better. Next we have a fantastic one for Raider. It's hit with character skill to reduce enemy attack power. So as you use retaliate and hit a target, you debuff them, making them deal less damage. What it actually does is 87% of their normal damage. So imagine they hit you, that's normally 100% of their normal attack. But because it was 87% once you've hit them with this retaliate effect, it's essentially a 13% damage nerf to their attack power. So it's very good. And since Raider's already one that's great with taking hits, with his passive and so on, reducing the damage you take, obviously great for you and the team. Next up we have Revenant and her new line, increased max FP upon ability activation. What this is in simple terms is your passive to sometimes trigger on killing blow an extra summon. So let's say you kill a Crucible Knight and then it triggers, you now have a little Crucible Knight summon following you around for a little bit, you know that. What this does is it increases your max FP by 2% every single time that you trigger that passive, which is obviously phenomenal through the duration of a run. Next up we have Recluse's one, which sounds very confusing, but it's actually phenomenal. Recluse, collect affinity residues to negate affinity. So it works for magic, fire, lightning and holy because that's what you generate with your residue. As you cast a spell and consume it, you absorb it, this triggers that effect. So with say magic residue that you absorb, you now have 20% magic damage negation for its duration. Honestly, I think this is pretty phenomenal. Finally, we have Executor with his new special, slowly restore HP upon ability activation. What does that mean? Well, if you go to the sparring grounds, you can see the information about your passive, because your Suncatcher is your character skill. Your ultimate art is your art. So It must mean ability activation is the passive, which is receive a boost while recovering from status ailments. This is something that doesn't really happen in normal gameplay much at all. However, will happen a bit more in the Deep of Night mode, because there are many effects with these relics like this one. Taking damage causes poison buildup. So if you trigger this while you have this new passive, you're going to get health restore in response, counteracting the poison damage in its own way if you look at this example. But that is the 8 new relic lines, what they do. But let's now talk about some of the best universal Deep Relic lines you might be looking for. First up, we have this one, Improved Flask HP Restoration, without a curse on it. That is possible. I think it's obvious that that's unbelievably good, because it's normally something you'd find as a dormant power and definitely want to take when you do. The fact you can find it on one of these new relics, super good. Next up, we have new stat stackers that can come with no curse, as you can see. This one is max health increase per great enemy defeated at a great church. What does that mean? Well, basically the big churches, the cathedrals, you have the boss there underground or laying on the top level, whatever. When you kill it, you get this max health increase. And what this is apparently 5% per church great enemy. And obviously it's going to stack up like it's, say, the Everjail one. So this encourages you to do the churches because you want to go get the keys there anyway. 5% health increase is amazing, especially for the bigger health characters. There are other new ones you're going to find on these relics though, like runes and item discovery increase for each great enemy defeated at a fort. There's max stamina increase for each great enemy defeated at great encampments, so the big encampments, and arcade increases for each great enemy defeated at ruins. Obviously, this will be more and less relevant based on the character you're playing. Like arcane increased is going to be great for any status focused build like Executor and so on. Since these can come with no curse, I think they're top tier. Other great universal fantastic options will be stamina recovery upon landing attacks, again comes with no curse. Reduced FP consumption, just overall. Amazing for anyone that's going to use FP reasonably, like Duchess, Wylder, Revenant, whatever. Since it comes with no curse, that's amazing. Now naturally I don't have any for the purpose of showing you this because that sucks for me. But if you look at this one, Holy Attack Power up +4. Imagine that says Physical Attack Power up +3 +4. As you can see, when you get to +3 and +4 on these concepts, it always comes with a curse. But the +3 +4 Physical Attack Power bonus essentially equates to 8.5 increase for +3, and +4 is a 10% increase. So just one of these +4 effects for Physical Attack Power would equate to 2 jail clears with the usual meta relic effect. It's a big deal. Another example of this would be attack power up +1 or +2 when facing status afflicted enemies. So in this case, it says Scarlet Rot afflicted enemy, but of course you can find this for frost or poison, things that are more common and easy to get. For a build that's tied around a concept like that, that's going to be a nice damage increase for the run. And luckily we have exactly what I want to talk about next here too. Partial HP restoration upon post-damage attacks +2. So this was already a great concept, the Bloodborne rally effect where you take damage and then heal yourself by attacking quickly. What +1 and +2 does is increase the amount of healing you get. So for +1 it's 25%, for +2 it's a 35% increase. And this is stackable with other +1 and +2 effects. So if you're able to get multiple of these partial HP restoration concepts across your different deep relics, you can actually become a trading god. Like imagine you're a raider with fists as your setup. You can just not dodge with your amazing poise and just absolutely devastate. That's going to be an unbelievable concept if you can stack them up and deal with the curses that always come with this, such as reduced dexterity and faith. We're going to talk about that. Let's also talk about this one. Physical attack power increased after using grease items. There are many grease items you're going to find of all kinds of affinities, but this will increase your physical attack power after using it. You can find these with no curse, as you can see, on Deep Relics. Or you can find +1 and +2 versions that will come with a curse that maybe you can tank, maybe you can't. The +0 version of this relic line means 10% increased physical damage for 30 seconds on top of the grease effect itself. But +1 will be 17%, +2 would be 20%. And you can stack these up and combine with affinity increasing concepts too. This ultimately results in a big damage amp for 30 seconds, which is solid uptime. So it's something I don't think you should ignore and should tank curses for if you're thinking about it, again, for physical attack power builds. Now there are some good lines you can find as well that I at least want to mention, even if not absolutely as insane. Like defeating enemies will fill some of the arc gauge. You can find this on Deep Relics with no curse, but if it's got say +1/+2, it will come with a curse, but building up your ultimate as a reliable thing you can use more often will be very potent. In this category, I also put improved damage types here too, like improved affinity attack power, improved initial standard attack, an improved specific weapon type for the attack power of that, like halberd here. You can also find incantations and sorcery too with no curse as another thing. But something you'll see that I have a lot across my relics is any resistance, even +1, can come with no curse. So that's obviously going to be great, especially when dealing with the buildup of the relevant status. One final one I want to mention is critical hit boost stamina recovery speed, again without curse. Not amazing obviously, but a nice little passive that can work on any melee specific build. Now before we move on to the ones that come with curses and the kind you can put up with, I want to at least highlight a big change in the meta of the gameplay. Attack power increased for each Night Invader defeated. This was always good, but there was a big problem. The Cataclysm event, the invaders that come with that, they were very rare. So even though this is actually better than the meta relic of attack power increase for each ever jail prisoner defeated, which is a 5% increase by the way each time, the Night Invader defeated one is a 7% increase each time, so it's straight up better. But because the Cataclysm event was so rare, it was too unreliable. In this patch, you may have noticed that they're way more common. I am seeing them like every run in the Deep of Night mode. And importantly, you might find a Cataclysm event that has multiple invaders. So you might get, instead of 7%, 2 invader kills for 1 Cataclysm, that's 14%. So it's incredibly worth considering and going after invaders if you've got it on. But let's now talk about the kind of curses you can put up with that are worth the trade-off. As I said, attack power up when facing poison afflicted enemy when you're doing a poison build like Ironeye here, that's amazing, but it's going to come with a curse. But reduced faith and strength, well I don't care about faith or strength at all as Ironeye. What this actually does is reduce the referred stat by 3, which is completely fine because I don't care about strength or faith. But if it's not a relevant stat for the character, then it's well worth tanking for some of these positive effects. Next is another concept of a status buildup that you have a resistance for. So this is a pretty bad example because, you know, Death Blight is instant death, but you can see how it says taking damage causes death buildup, and then I have improved Death Blight resistance +1. It means that I'm able to counteract that effect massively. And while Death Blight is the worst example, what if it was poison or bleed or frost buildup and then you have potent resistance to that, madness? Then yeah, it's absolutely something you can tank as a negative curse. So again, with the whole insane +3/+4 attack power bonus concept, that's always going to come with a curse. If you can get multiple of those across a build, it's a lot of percent increase. And if it's anything you can tank as a curse, even if it's build up of a status, and maybe you have that specific status resistance too, that'll be amazing. You could say this as well about improved physical damage negation, which is super potent, but the curse has to be manageable. Lastly, before we talk about the builds that I currently have, I want to mention the Dormant power helps discover specific weapon types, like Spear in this case. What this means is when you kill a boss, you're offered Dormant powers, right? And then whatever preferred weapon you have for that character, it's got a chance to be offered, more or less based on the thing you just killed. So Wylder, obvious example, his preferred weapon is Greatsword. You're very likely to be offered Greatswords throughout the run because of that. But if you have this line, Dormant power helps discover Spears, well instead of Greatswords, I'll be offered Spears. Why this is good then is it's for characters that don't care massively about their starting weapon, but they want their core concept instead. Executor is a status spammer, so you know, katanas can be okay, but imagine jump attack spam with power stance curved swords or twin blade, which does an unbelievable amount of attacks in one go, triggers a load of status, and you can improve your jump attack spam in a load of ways. That'd be great for that concept. Duchess is another one. You want to find ideal sorcery for proper spam, like Carrion Slicer is an obvious top pick. So changing from your dagger preferred weapon to staffs, well that would make it easier to find the spells you're looking for. That's why you consider these, and I do think they're good. Finally then, we're going to look at the builds that I have, and I'm going to quickly cover them and you can consider it how you want. A lot of the main information I've already just covered, so we'll be recapping quickly. So starting with Wylder as usual. One additional character skill use is vital. Art activation spreads fire in area is vital. It's also been buffed to do more damage this patch. Using the Wylder earring is an obvious choice then to get both of them. The meta of stacking 5% attack power per Everjail you clear is still very relevant. And lastly, increased attack power per Night Invader, which is 7% compared to the 5% of the jail, is relevant in the current meta of the game. Cataclysm is way more common, especially in Deep of Night mode. It's actually awesome. Lastly for Wylder, I want you to consider the Dark of Night Beast relic. Getting stamina recovery on landing attacks is great. Taking attacks improves attack power, that's 15%, and fire attack power up +2. This is the alternative to the attack power increase for Night Invader defeated. It's up to you what you want to go for. For my Deep Relics then, I don't have the ideal setup, so I have a dud in this red slot. In the blue slot, that's where I'm getting the Wylder character skill inflicts blood loss as a great way to get that. And lastly, I have the all-incredible improved flash HP restoration in the last slot. Please consider the first section of the video, use the timestamps for what you'd actually be aiming for here. Next up, we have Guardian. I don't have the ideal setup for my relics here, so I'll at least mention it. But for me, I've got the Guardian specific. Successful guard sends out shockwaves, a little burst of damage. Then you get Art Gauge from guarding, which is amazing, and endurance for blocking in general. We have that concept I just mentioned, the Dark Knight of Beast, amazing here, recover stamina from landing attacks, and taking attacks, which we do as Guardian, 15% attack power increase while that's going, amazing. Lastly, stacking Everjail, the meta relic. I would like the Crate's Whirlwind while charging halberd attacks though, that'd be great too, but you don't need the guard counter boost concept because you can find that now on the Deep Relics. As you can see, you can find that on the Deep Relics, which means you don't need it on your normal relics anymore if you can find it, and as you can see it comes without a curse, so pretty amazing. For me though, I have improved halberd attack power just to fill a dud slot. It's nice to just at least have a bit of poise. Then the two yellow slots are very awkward for me, so for the moment I've just got resistances because I don't have anything better. But obviously we've talked about what to aim for. Next we have Ironeye. Obviously you want to lean into poison as a concept. Poison in the vicinity increases attack power. Getting that on the starting weapon's nice, but with the new relic effect that we've been talking about, we can trigger poison by using our character skill. So obviously we're doing that. On that note, you absolutely must have +1 additional character skill use so that you can use the mark more often. Find that however you can. There's also the buff that occurred to the duration of the Mark 1. It's now 5-second increase compared to 3-second increase. Not bad if you can get that too. And obviously the jail meta continues. For yellow slots, it's a bit awkward for me. We have that new Ironeye effect, and then resistances, and lastly, it's a poison build, so attack power up when facing poison afflict enemy, obviously great. The curse I'm willing to trade that for was faith and strength loss, which doesn't matter for Ironeye. Next up we have Duchess. So of course, Duchess, the whole meta, is getting Carrion Slicer or Carrion casts or relevant casts in general. Using your dagger as a tool on the way to that. So getting yourself some starting power is important. Giving us frostbite options and increased attack power when frostbiting enemies, obvious choice, Knight of Miasma for that. Then we have the jail meta, and of course improved character skill attack power. You're improving the potential of the rewind, plus we're getting dexterity in on this easy green. It's a great option. This gives us 2 yellow slots and a green though. So on that, I've got my new Duchess use character skill for brief invulnerability, half a second of immunity to damage when activating it. Amazing. Plus, I actually get to have the max health increase for each Great Church boss kill. Thanks to this slot, amazing. Then we have 2 yellow slots. So I've got the resistances, and in my case, I've got reduced FP consumption because that's great for this character, and attack power up when facing poison afflicted enemy if my team is doing that, hopefully. Not an ideal setup, obviously, but you get the gist of it. Next we have Raider. Raider is incredible with power stance colossal weapons, or medium weapons now. They actually buffed the jump attack spam stagger potential of that. He's also incredible for fist attack spam in power stance as well. So that's the focus here. But right now I do have an awkward situation, right? Improved stance breaking when wielding 2 armaments is what I'd like to have, and you should go for it if you can. You can see that I have an amazing one here. Attack power increase for each Everjail prisoner defeated without a yellow slot. That's amazing. So that's what I'm doing and why. Otherwise, taking attacks improves attack power. Obvious choice for Raider. 15% attack power while it's going. You're trading a lot. Amazing. And then with that, you're definitely going to want damage taken while using character skill. Improves attack power and stamina. One of his meta options. Plus, in this case, I have character skill cooldown reduction to retaliate more often. This combined with his new concept of reducing enemy attack power by using retaliate makes you a tanky beast. So for the moment with these slots, I've got stamina recovery on landing attacks. That's the best I could do here. Improved initial standard attack and a bit of poison resistance. And importantly, runes and item discovery increase for each fought great enemy, and crits boost my stamina recovery speed. Pretty decent for a starting setup. Next we have Revenant. In my opinion, the Revenant specific lines are unbelievably important. Power up while fighting alongside family is incredibly potent. Trigger Ghost Flame Explosion during ultimate art activation, incredibly potent. Any AoE scenario, use it as soon as possible. And Revenant strengthens family and allies when ultimate art is activated, doubling up on this "your ult is amazing" concept, turning it from a wet noodle ult into something unbelievably strong. With this setup, I get these lines and make sure I have them. It doesn't matter what anything else has. So pretty bad second and third lines here. Irrelevant poise really. At least I get something from this one. If you can get those lines with other perks that actually matter, good for you. I can't so far. Otherwise, for the Deep of Night relics, we have stamina recovery on landing attacks and improved incantations, which is nice. We have the new Revenant ability, so that 2% increased max FP every time we trigger the passive, and some resistance. And then with some resistance and affinity attack power, also improving our flask health restoration. Awesome. Next we have Recluse. Of course, the Everjail meta continues. We definitely want to be triggering Terra Magica on the Affinity Residue collection, and suffering blood loss and increasing attack power upon art activation gives you a way to make your ult actually be a damage amp, so I think it's worth getting. If you can achieve the same concepts, but with more efficient extra lines, that'd be great. For the Deep Night relics I've got improved incantations and a bit of resistance. I have runes and item discovery increase on fort, and max health increase for each great church. Not amazing lines really overall. I don't have the Recluse specific one, affinity damage negation from our residues. I absolutely want that, but currently I don't have a slot that can fit it. Finally, we're at Executor. Quick blast of this. Attack bar increase for each Night Invader, amazing in the current meta of the game. Of course, we have the Everjail stacking concept, and we go for Frost as our starting affinity and benefits there. You could do all of this in a much more efficient way. Let's say you have a starting weapon that has Frost affinity on it, instead of having to use this Ash of War. Then you could get an Ash of War that's more relevant, like Seppuku. I cannot physically fit that, so I don't. But the idea is to lean into a status setup with your starting weapon. Otherwise, you could use the new Deep of Night relics to go for curved swords for dormant powers, or twin blades, and go into a jump attack spam version. Anyway, the new slowly restore health when you trigger status can help you counter some of the build up of status curses as we talked about, and stamina recovery on landing attacks is nice. I would much rather have a poison setup combined with my frost setup with this build, and with that I'd get some extra bonuses here, and I just have some resistances with that. So right now I'm looking for relics to really clean up all of this, but obviously I've taken pains to explain what I'm aiming for and why, what the best stuff is, what you can tank. My setup is currently messy because I just started to play. But there you have it. That's my overview and what I believe is best to aim for at the moment. I hope this gives you a good idea of what you can keep and maybe avoid. And if you guys have any more thoughts and information, tips around this topic, let us know. Until next time then, I've been Hollow, you've been you, and thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.